Dave Gleason, welcome back to the Soccer Queens podcast.
Thank you so much for having me back.
It's been a while. We did a lot of episodes during COVID, and
We
we
sure did.
also used to do a lot of collaboration blogs, which were really fun.
They were the best. I've read through those over and over again. That was fun, and this is some good information we put out there.
Yeah, those were fun, and I haven't done a collaboration blog since then, and I really think we need to start bringing those back because I think when you have two people really diving deep on a topic, it's so powerful, and you also bring your experiences with your athletes and your own voice and personality, so it can get really fun to read.
Yeah, if that's an invitation, let's do it. Let's do another one.
100%. Well, I know a lot of people listening know who you are from all of your past appearances on my podcast and in my blog, but why don't you just give the listeners a reminder of who you are and who you currently work with?
Okay. So the short story is, I'm Dave Gleason. A lot of people call me Coach Dave. I've been training adults and kids for just about 30 years. I've always trained young athletes from the onset of my career. 15 or 16 years ago, I dove in head first. That I knew that's what I needed to be doing. And I ran a very, very successful gym for 15 years. It was dedicated to young athletes, and within that time, I started to really understand the importance of educating coaches because I knew I could only impact the kids locally um, in my area. So I've dedicated the other half of my career to educating coaches with resources, blogs, writing, speaking engagements, presentations, and it's been awesome. The only thing that lights me up more than watching a young athlete walk into a new skill or have success and see their eyes light up is helping a coach do the same for others. And again, I know I can make a much larger impact and reach more kids through coaches. So I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of great organizations and a lot of great people, and it's led me to today, where we get to talk about young athletes and coaches and what's going on today.
Brilliant. And, you're my go-to for youth long-term athletic development, and we can get into all the topics like speed and conditioning. But today I wanted to have you on to talk more about the mental and emotional side of the sports world. And I've been getting a lot of questions from my own girls and even girls who just randomly DM me on Instagram, and they have a lot of concerns about team drama, gossip, and cliques within a team, and I'm hearing about it more and more, and I'm always hard pressed to find a girl who doesn't have that going on her team. So it seems to be a struggle for a lot of girls. So I really want to get your opinion on just how to navigate this situation. So I don't know where you want to start with this, but let's just dive in.
Let's go ahead first. So before we came on, I said I thought a lot about this. It seems more prevalent. I don't know if you're seeing that and hearing that. It seems more prevalent, and it also seems a bit more intense than it used to before. Rather than dive into why, we could give all the reasons why, although I think we'd be remiss to not at least talk about the fact that when the COVID shutdown happened, the one thing that we missed out on was connection to each other, the connection to others, the social aspect of our sport. You and I had talked about when we started training more online because we had to, we very quickly realized that our programming, like all the X's and O's, rep schemes, and what exercises we selected, was so arbitrary. The science is there that we can draw off of, and we could even borrow or copy from other great trainers and sports conditioning coaches and say, all right, this program will work, and then I can tweak it for my kids. What was so important, what really struck me was how much they needed to be connected to us, even though it was like this online. It was so important that they were connected to their coaches and each other. And that really became the most important thing that we did. And we carried that through once we were able to reopen after the shutdown. I feel like I say that just to put in context where we are now, we're still looking for that. So if there is a click on a team or a certain number, say girls on a team that are it's a click by every definition of the word, right? They're not letting others in, they're not including other girls on the team. It seems more intense because we all want to belong, right? One of my favorite coaches of all time that worked with me for years and years, he started playing sports in high school just to fit in, to have friends, and this is way, way back when. And there's still some of that. I feel like, and I've always talked to my athletes about identity, and this is where we can talk about maybe how to deal with this. I want your listeners, your girls that have reached out to first know I acknowledge what you're feeling. It is real. What you feel is real. You have to acknowledge those feelings. And I'm sorry that it's affecting you. I want you to do a couple things. One is I want you to think about your identity. And you and I, Erica, have talked about this before because this is why I started coaching. Soccer became my identity. It was everything I thought about. I felt like all I was a soccer player. And the higher level I got, the better identity I have, the more popular I could be, the more I'd be liked. And when my career did end, because all careers end, I was lost. I was like, who am I? What do I do? I had a career. I started my training career right away, but who am I? So, girls, I want you to think about your identity, and your identity isn't soccer. Soccer is something you're probably very good at. It's something that you love to do, but I want you to start thinking about your identity more of what you think about yourself, what thoughts, what things you say to yourself. And I want you to be kind to yourself in that way because at the end of the day, we can't make anyone like someone else or include someone else, in my opinion, right? It's just very difficult. It's just like we can't make you girls like someone else if they just rub you the wrong way. You don't feel connected to that person for whatever. So you're not necessarily wanting to include them. So I really want you to work on your identity, what you think about yourself first. Um, because another thing I thought about is if we don't do that, right? Because you might think, well, that's not going to work, and I don't know what to think. It just starts with changing one thought, right? Instead of thinking about how you're not included in that click on your team, change that thought with literally, I think I am a great person. Simple, right? And you might be like, that's silly, that's stupid, whatever. But start there. And if you continue that practice, your self talk will get better and better and better. So, on the other side of the coin, if you let that affect you, girls or boys, whoever's listening to this, you'll start playing differently, right? Because then you start to play to be accepted. And that is when you can start making mistakes on the field, and then you're gonna feel like, "Oh, I just missed that shot over the crossbar. We really needed that goal. Now they're really not gonna like me, or now they're really not going to include me in their group or talk to me or ask me to go out after the game or go to dinner if we're at a tournament, meeting at this hotel or this restaurant." You start playing differently, and you play the game because you love the game. So dive into that and dive into and recognize who you are as a person and a human being that also plays soccer and is potentially very, very good at it.
That's a really interesting perspective on this topic, and I think it's realistic too because any team or group, we get into, we're not going to get along with everyone, and
Hmm.
it's never going to be a perfect scenario, and
Hmm.
do you think now people expect things to just always be perfect or to always be liked? Like, what do you think is going on here?
Yes, I believe the ideal, right, is, and I've heard youth coaches say this. I'm in a position now in my life. I am afforded the opportunity to go to a lot of practices and games and just watch watch the coaches, watch other kids interact, and that's where I'm getting most of my education right now. I think there's a ideal coming from the kids, but the parents and the coaches as well, that we're all going to get along. We're all going to be, it's one team. We're all best friends. I do believe in one team. We have to be, as much as possible, operating on the same page, firing on all cylinders. We have one goal, whether it's tactically or whatever, we're all working toward the same thing. But the reality is, Eric, and you know this, you've coached, you've played at a very high level. You don't have to be best friends with every teammate. You do have to get along. And that was always my message to the teams that I coached. I'd literally say on day one, I don't, and I coach boys, but primarily, you don't all have to be best friends, but you are going to get along. And you're going to respect each other when you're together. And I think nowadays that needs to be expanded to when you're not together on social media through text groups, because that's where we can get in trouble, right? If someone says something off color against another player and this, that, and the other thing. This is funny because I come from a day and age, if you couldn't say it to someone's face, you didn't say it. You might have said it to their friend, your other friends or whatever. I don't like him or whatever. But now, with the ability of, again, a text chat or social media, you can say things you wouldn't say to the other person's face. And that's unfortunate because that can be very hurtful and harmful. So I hope that answered your question a bit. I think there is this ideal that everyone will get along and everything's going to be perfect, and it's not the dynamic. That's not how life works. I've been in part of very large organizations in the past, and we got along and accepted each other and respected each other so that we could work toward a common goal, whether it's to create a resource or a textbook or whatever. But it didn't mean that I wanted to have dinner with all of these people every single night, or travel with them and have them be my best friends. And that's okay. That's okay. I will say this as well. This is just coming to mind. Um, I think, if also, girls, you could think about what you have, not what you don't have, because that was also me, especially in high school. I figured if I was the best player on the team, I could be in the in group, right? And that was one of my kind of soul things. I wanted to be with these guys because they were like the cool guys in school as well. I figured, well, if I elevated my game and I was the top scorer, or I was winning games for us or whatever, I was in that group. But I never thought about that aspect in terms of what I had. Like, what about my close circle of friends that really mean a lot to me? Like, I had a best friend that didn't play soccer. He was an American football player. He was on the football team. And I look back, man, I wish I really valued that friendship even more than I did, because I was always looking for what I didn't have, if that makes any sense. So, girls, think about the people that are close to you, that support you, that want to be around you. Because again, your soccer team, no matter how successful it is or what level you play, again, that's a group you are a part of, and you should be respected. Um, you should be respected and accepted. It's just a part of who you are. It's a part of your life. You also have maybe a brother and a sister, parents, another best friend. You have other things. So focus on the things you do have as well.
I want to come back to what you just said there about how we tie our performance into fitting in with like the good players on the team. And if
Mhm.
we can score goals and win games, and I know a lot of girls do that. And then like girls who like don't play as many minutes feel very left out from the team, but
Mhm.
it is important for them to realize that there are other ways you can feel a part of a team and be friends with everyone, even though you're not starting or you're not getting playing time.
Mhm.
And I think that's such a good reminder to just stop tying our performance to, like, fitting in with the cool crowd on the team.
Absolutely, because again, you may start playing, you're putting all this pressure on yourself, right? I have to play better so I can break into the starting lineup, or I can make an impact if I am on the starting lineup so people will like me. And conversely, if I make a mistake, they're going to be mad at me. That's a very difficult to play the sport that you love, or any sport. I had always preached, and I still do to young athletes, make mistakes with confidence. Go for it. Have the courage to make a play where your sole focus is on making that play, not what if I miss? What if I mess up this pass? Right? What if it gets intercepted? It's in our back third. Give them a breakaway. They score. It's my fault. Now everybody's mad at me. I'm definitely not going to be as a part of that starting lineup, of that starting 10, or that click that I really so badly want to be a part of.
Now, what about girls who are on a team where the girls are just mean, like, they're bullies, and it's so unbearable to go to practice that they don't even look forward to it, and they're contemplating, "Well, should I stay here and endure this, or should I look elsewhere? I'm on the top team now, maybe I shouldn't leave, and maybe I should put up with this crap." That's a very
Right.
common scenario I get asked about all the time, is the mean girls.
I'll just say this, that stinks. I'm so sorry that anyone has to deal with that. Um, that's a lot to unpack. There's so many things there, right? The first thing that comes to mind, I've always talked about this because I was taught this and it made a lot of sense to me. Kids that are mean or bullying, or let's just say mean, it's a reflection of them, not you. And that's where I go back to, you really have to work on it. It's work. Just like you practice the game, you have to practice positive self-talk. And you have to work at and practice knowing who you are. I said the word identity. Who am I? I am a great person. I am, you know, Erica's friend, and Erica doesn't play soccer. I am a great soccer player. That can be part of your identity. I'd be hard pressed to think that anyone say, "Well, I am part of the in group." Right? At the end of the day, that doesn't matter. But if you work on your identity, you become somewhat insulated to what the mean girls may say or how they may act. And it's a way of also reminding yourself that when they act that way or they lash out at you because, again, maybe you lost the ball in the back third or you missed an important shot or a shot, it's a reflection on them. And that's something they have to work on. And know this, and this is one of those mom or dad things that they say to kids, but it's so true. You can't control what other people do, you can only control your own actions. So the other thing that can boost your own self-confidence, even within this scenario, if mom or dad doesn't get involved, or the coach doesn't need to get involved, or you need to switch teams or clubs, as your self-confidence grows, you become like a magnet to everybody else because people want to be like you because you will be the cool kid. As your self-confidence rises, you'll be the kid that if someone else misses a shot, you're like, "You've got that shot, Erica. Head down, take it again. Take that shot again. We need you." Instead of like, "What the hell? What are you doing? Jesus, wah," just being mean and cutting you down. I've always said this to my teams. If I missed a shot and went 10 feet over the crossbar, no one needed to tell me, right? I already knew it. I already knew it was a bad shot, right? So, when you start, and that's why I said, "Oh, just keep your head down and keep shooting," because maybe I noticed your head was up and your shoulders were back, and that's why the ball went up. I'm trying to teach kids that there's a reason for everything. So if you miss a shot, it's not good or bad. It didn't go where you wanted it to. Why? It just is. It's a fact it didn't go where you wanted it to. Maybe your plant foot was pointed too far to the left, so straighten that out next time. Maybe your head and shoulders were up. Maybe you didn't focus on the ball. Focus on those things instead of just it's bad, and focus on those things on your other teammates. Because as you do that, I guarantee girls will start to respond to that in a positive way. And the mean girl will start to get ignored more and more and more. And in the best case scenarios, she starts to change her tune even just a little bit. Just a little bit. There's a lot of other strategies that are very difficult, having one-on-one tough conversations. People, I'm one of them, avoid conflict. I don't want to talk to her. She's mean to me all the time. I'm kind of afraid of her. I had a guy like that on my soccer team my junior year. He was a senior, and I was like, if I say something, he's gonna kill me, right? Um, all we can do is control what we do. So work on your own identity and continually work on your own behavior and be that player that you wish they were. And just see what happens, see how that feels. The other thing that I believe will happen, Erica, is when you're focused on those things, you're not focused on those words, right? And you're not focused on the bullying and the mean comments if you make a mistake, because there's times, right? I've been in that situation. I've heard these situations. You do everything right, and they still have something mean to say. You might score and like it's about time, right? Okay, again, that's a reflection on them. I'm such an empath. A lot of time, like I feel bad for them now. I feel bad that they're in a situation in their lives where their only outlet is to act that way toward others or toward me. So I hope that can add some clarity for at least one person that's watching this, and it can help. It takes time. I won't have anything for you to do today that it's gone. However, I believe what we're talking about, you can start using today, and over time things will get better, right? So you can look back a month and think about how things were, and then, okay, how is it now? Is it better?
No, I think that's really actionable right now, and there's gonna be small improvements over time. And I think this is one of those situations where girls can really step in and lead by example and take the high road. And I know this sounds cliche, but kill them with kindness and just come back to who you are. And that's being a good person, that's being a good teammate despite someone bullying you. And I think a shift will happen for the better if you continue to just focus on doing good. And I always come back to ancient wisdom. If you're going to suffer or get bullied, you might as well suffer while doing good. And I
Yes.
think that's really your only option. Of course, there might be some situations where it's so bad within a team and the team culture is just not changing, and maybe you have to go to another team, but that's really
Mhm,
after you implement this first, would you
mhm.
say, and just try your best, and then if no one budges, would you recommend maybe
Yes,
leaving?
yes. Something else that came to mind as you were talking, and I love those caveats and those points. It's so true. I need girls to know that there is some responsibility from adults as well. A coach has to really, they're a leader and they're a guiding force on teams. That's their main role, is teaching, guiding their players. There needs to be an expectation, a team culture that is laid out and then reinforced over time. And I say that to say, girls, know this as well as you start to have positive self talk and you start to really think about your own identity and who you really are, and that soccer and this team and what's happening is in your life, right? Um, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. So just continually work on yourself and doing good in the midst of a bad situation, and you can make it better. You can absolutely make it better.
I love that advice, and I think this is just so valuable even when they're done playing. As you mentioned, it's not going to be forever. You're going to have colleagues, you're gonna be on a team at work, and there's going to be different personalities everywhere. And like Dave said earlier, you don't have to be best friends with people, but you have to know how to work with people and still be a good person. And I think that's just the overall theme of this conversation is knowing who you are and figuring out your identity and how you want to show up to other
Mhm.
people and on your team. Now, is there anything else you want to just wrap this up with, as far as team drama, gossip, cliques?
So much. I feel like you've started us down that road, and what I was thinking is, you'll hear a lot. Sports is such a metaphor for life, and it can teach you a lot of life lessons. And it sounds cliche, but it is so true. Sports are, we call it a microcosm, a small example of what life is really like, especially if you have a career where you have to work with other people. Some people work individually from home, or they have, they're just here. So many of us, whatever our role is or our job is later on in life, we have to interact with other people. And I believe youth sports is going to help our society in the future. That may sound like, wow, that's you're dreaming, Coach Dave. I don't. It's true, because if we can have enough adults helping young adults and kids learn these lessons and do the right things in the midst of bad situations and work on their own self identity early, work on their own self confidence early, learn how to make mistakes with confidence and learn from those mistakes, learn how to look at a situation that happened and say, okay, it just is. Let's not label it good or bad. Why did it happen and how can I fix it? We talked about that just in terms of the skill of playing the sport. That's problem solving. Athletes are problem solvers. We've talked about the studies we've seen. Young athletes are making up to 20 decisions every single second, and you're always problem solving. Where are my teammates? Where are the opponents? Where's the ball? Where am I in relation to the goal? Am I in the right position? I can hear my mom yelling. I can hear my coach yelling. I can hear the mean girl yelling. You're having all this information come in. What a great way to train for life down the road. So, the last thing I'll say, this is really important for me because, again, I put so much of my identity on the sport of soccer. Enjoy it as much as you can. Right now, kids are dropping out. Like 75% of you are dropping out of youth sports by age 13 because no one's telling you, like, have fun. Like, have fun on those road trips, have fun on the field. If you're a soccer player, your safe place should be the field. Right? I can't wait to go to practice because I don't have to think about school. I don't have to think about social stuff at school. I don't have to think about anything. I'm just on the field with my other best friend, the soccer ball, and all these girls that are on my team, and we're trying to accomplish something. So enjoy it as much as you can, and focus on what you do have, not what you don't.
I'm so glad you said that, Dave. We're not told that enough while we're playing. Except I do remember my mom did say in college to enjoy it because she knew it was going to be over soon, but you don't take them seriously, you know? You're just like, "Oh, it's not
Mm,
gonna end. That day won't come. It's so far away." And then when
right,
it happens, you're just like, "Wait, like, what do you mean it's over? The bus rides, the team trips, the pasta dinners, all the memories, like,
right.
it's gone." And it's like, I wish I would've really live those
Mhm,
moments more. And even the bad moments too, you know, even the moments when you were running through hard conditioning drills or you were in like double overtime playing your hardest game. I mean, those are moments to enjoy as well. And there's nothing like playing competitive sports because when you're done, all you have is like adult co-ed leagues. And trust me,
Mhm.
if you get into those, you're going to be really frustrated and it's not as fun.
Yeah,
So,
that's a
yeah,
whole nother
that's
podcast.
another podcast.
Here's a great example, I think, of what we're both saying, because I was in the same boat. What I remember about college soccer are the long bus rides
Mhm.
and the conversations I had with guys that I didn't really know just because all right, I guess I'm sitting next to you, right? And you're on the bus for 6 hours heading from New Hampshire to Pennsylvania or whatever. Um, think about this, girls. I know you're all on Instagram and on TikTok and all that kind of stuff. Think about the posts from Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe before she retired. They weren't all posts of their goals or a sick play that they made. It's all these little vignettes of them goofing around with their teammates, right? It's all the fun stuff in between, walking from the bus into like a new facility and they've got all new gear on. That's the stuff. That's the you Oh my gosh, that was so cool. I love those kits. We felt so good coming off the bus, walking next to Megan. Like it's all that stuff. Yeah, there's gonna be, a highlight of one of Alex's goals or a crazy assist that she makes. But usually that's by, her pro team posts that for her because they're trying to promote the team, or US women's soccer, highlights every single goal that they scored in that last game. But really pay attention to what they're really posting about. It's the life stuff. And that's the most important thing. And that's, I think, part of the reason they're so great at what they do is because they're in the moment and they're enjoying every minute of it.
I think that ties back to what we've been discussing this entire time with Mean Girls and team drama. We tend to focus on the negativity that's going on, but there's so
Mhm,
much good that's happening in our experience on our team. And I think girls need to remind themselves of that. Like, what
mhm.
teammates are they having fun with? What memories do they always cherish? And don't worry about the bad that's happening right now. Like focus on what good is going on and just really be present with it. And I think that just really wraps everything up so nicely. And you were like the perfect person to talk about this, Dave.
Thanks. Hey, can I just add one more thing, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
You and I we've done a lot with recruiting, helping with recruiting and that process and what coaches look for. Know this as well. Do not impersonate the mean girls to try to fit in. I can't tell you, and I know you could say the same thing, the number of college coaches I've spoken to one on one with said, I had this kid, they were high on our list, went to go watching them play, watched how they treated their teammates at halftime. I took them off our list.
Yeah.
Coaches want great kids to play for their programs in college. They're not even going to look at you if the skill's not already there. So don't worry about that. They know you're good at the game. They know you can play the game. Now it's grades and what kind of kid are they? They check all your social media. They go to a game, they watch how you interact with your teammates on the field, what direction you're giving, not how are you yelling at your teammates. Are you motivational, inspirational? Are you a good kid? Are you the one that's getting water for other kids? They look at all, I promise you that's what they're looking at. So again, in the midst of a not so great situation, do good, be yourself, be the best version of you, and you can't lose.
Such a good reminder, and I've seen that happen so many times, especially when I was working at Johns Hopkins, like, there were some studs at the ID camps, but then we overheard some conversations and we
Mhm,
took them off our list because it didn't fit with the team culture of Hopkins
mhm.
women's soccer being the nicest girls on campus.
Right.
So, I coaches absolutely look at that stuff. I think character is the most underrated thing in college recruiting, but everyone is going to be skilled at this level. I mean, if you're
Mhm.
ECNL, everyone's good at soccer, but how does your character set you apart? How does your service to others set you apart? And that's what a lot of college coaches are looking for now.
Absolutely. I wish I had made up this quote, but I didn't. I don't know who did. It's probably John Wooden or someone like that. We all steal each other's stuff, right? But it's skill will get you on the field, attitude will keep you there.
Yeah. Yes. So good. We are going to end on that one. That is such a powerful punch to just end this show. And Dave, I do want you to just plug some things that you're doing. You're back on your speaking grind and you're amazing at speaking on youth development and strength and conditioning. So, what events do you have coming up that people can tune into?
Oh, thank you. I love talking with coaches, learning from coaches. I love presenting and speaking on these topics. So, the International Conditioning Association is holding a virtual summit, so it's online. This is more for coaches, girls. So, if you're listening and you're a player, this won't necessarily be for you. But if you're a coach of any sport, this will help you. If you train young athletes, this will help you. We have some PhDs speaking at this on everything on how to analyze data and use it practically, which is really important. We could talk about that forever. Uh, we have someone talking about thoracic mobility and how that can help prevent or reduce injuries or help people come back from injuries quicker. They're going to deep dive into the science. What I'm going to talk about is how to get more out of your athletes, lower your own frustration, especially if you're working with younger athletes, 6 to 13 years old. I call it the 4 C's of bridging the gap for young athletes. So it's coaching, connection, communication, um, and cueing. That's November 18th. My Instagram is at Coach Dave Gleason. I have a link in my bio for that. If you can't make it, it's going to be recorded. It's going to be an awesome, awesome event, and you will leave with some practical things you can use in your practices or training sessions that day, especially with my presentation. So I'd love to see you in the room.
Awesome. So I'll actually include those in the show notes below. So be sure to check Dave out on Instagram as well as his speaking engagement. And please follow up with him. I mean, if you have questions about anything from physical development to dealing with mean girls and you want to share a personal story, Dave will be responsive and he always has great advice on that end. So, Dave, thank you again. And everyone, I will see you on the next episode.